Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chat G&G on a very sombre week for Liverpool fans and football fans all around the world. Grizz is away, and Gags had the show scheduled, so the guys decided they wanted to still do something. So you've got me, Eddie Gibbs, joining Gags tonight. And obviously, it's a difficult time to speak as Liverpool fans, difficult time to speak about what's happened over the past 24 hours. And obviously, tributes coming in from all around the world. And I think we should start by saying we're here to remember Diogo Jota tonight, remember the man, remember the footballer. But that's underpinned, of course, by the most important thing of all, which is that our thoughts are and remain with his wife, Ruth, with their 3 young children, with his mum and dad. Those people have suffered a personal loss which none of us can possibly comprehend. Well, there may be some that can comprehend that, but not many people, I would imagine, have suffered grief in the way that family are suffering grief right now. So our thoughts have to be with them first and foremost. I mean, imagine having to go and tell 3 young kids that they're not going to see their dad again, to tell a mother and a father they're not going to see either of their sons again, tell those kids they've lost their uncle as well. And obviously they've gone from a period where Diogo Jota has been probably on a personal high in both his private life and his football life in the last couple of months. And for that to come crashing down in this summer that was supposed to represent utopia for that family, to have that summer reach a crescendo like this, marred in tragedy, is obviously something that is going to determine everything that goes forward for Liverpool from this point. I mean, only a few weeks ago, Gags, we were speaking about last night that there was almost a tragedy after the parade, and we were all hoping and praying that everyone came through that okay. I think Diogo Jota was on that bus that day, you know what I mean? And it's just also eerie, it's also strange. And fortunately, everyone came through that horrible incident at the parade. And I think it was only the day before that we heard that the last person had been released from hospital. There was a certain joy around that. And then to have this thrown at everyone in the past 24 hours, obviously a very, very sad time. And I know everyone's going to be dealing with this grief in their own way. And obviously that's something that everyone has to go through in however they choose to deal with grief. And there's no right or wrong way. And anyone saying there is living in a vacuum. I think it's very difficult, Gags. And let's start by talking about what you feel. Obviously, this news broke yesterday morning. I did speak to you on the phone as soon as I heard about it. We didn't speak for long. We had to plan what we were going to do around Anfield Index, because obviously we've got a responsibility as well to not just Diogo and his family, but obviously to the people that tune into Anfield Index, whether it be video or audio. And we just decided for us, obviously, that it was a day to take stock. It had to be Diogo and his family's day. There was nothing really for us to add. We're just finding out the news like everyone else. So what were your thoughts when you first saw this?
I mean, guilt. I'll be honest with you. The first thing, I'm in a bit of a health kick at the moment. So I went for a swim yesterday morning. I came back. I was making some breakfast, and my daughter actually was heading to the gym, and she just said, "Oh, Dad, have you heard the Jota news? It's shocking." And I was like, "What?" And like the first thing that popped into my head was, "We've sold him already," because what? Surely, what else could it be? Like, I'm not going to think anything else, am I? I'm not going to. What other Jota news could there have been? And so she goes, "No, Dad, you haven't sold him. He's passed away." And I was like, "Don't be silly," because to your kid, right? You're just going to say, she's talking nonsense. No chance. Don't be silly. So I took my breakfast, sat down in front of my desk, like I'm sitting right here now. I got into WhatsApp, and you guys are all talking about it. It's all over Twitter. It's in our Discord server, and I'm like, surely not. He's 28 years old. Surely not. And then obviously you start to go deeper, and it's real, and it just hits real hard at that point, because you're just like, this is bigger than anything. And then you call me, "Hey, what's the plan for the day?" And then we just both decided nothing's happening today at all. A couple of tweets about Diogo, and we just take some stock, but like everybody else, and we respect the family. And that was the first thing that we had to decide, is what to do and how to do it. But then also we had to deal with that internally, what we were feeling, because we live this club, Eddie. We live it. We literally every single day what we're thinking is talking about this club, doing something about this club, and he is a massive was, and it's horrible to say was, like it hurts to say was, but he will always be a massive part of this club now because I'm 100% sure of it. Was just taking stock in what's just happened. That we've just lost a Liverpool. Now we should call him a legend because he won the league with us. He completed English football with us. He won every domestic trophy possible after winning the league. And we don't, obviously, no one ever classes the Nations League as anything. But hey, I'm going to class it as a major trophy for him more than anyone else because I want him to have that international honor as well now. And he you know, he had the most successful year of his career, and you know, just today to learn that injury that he got it was so innocuous as well. Like someone just fell on him in a game. It wasn't like, I don't think it was malicious in any way. I think it was just a coming together and someone fell on top of him, and that broke his ribs or hurt his lung or punctured his lung. I don't know what happened, but it affected his lungs that he had to have some surgery, and then he couldn't fly. And the whole reason of the accident is that he had to drive home. And did you hear the interview today by the physician or the physio he was with at 8:30?
I read the quotes from it that he had said that
he was fine and he was fit and everything was good. It was just the air cabin pressure that would affect
just purely
it.
precautionary.
Yeah, precautionary. So he had to drive home, and his brother decided to give him some support on the long drive.
Yeah.
And that just makes it even worse, you know, that
I mean, it does.
in a game has had a ripple effect.
Had these reverberations, yeah. The when I first heard yesterday, I saw a tweet in Spanish around 20 past 8. I was getting my kid ready for school, and I saw a tweet in Spanish. I speak a bit of Spanish, so I was able to read that, and I just thought, no, this is just rubbish. You know, it hadn't said that. It just said there had been an accident in northern Spain, and it was suspected that Diogo Jota may have been in the car, and I didn't even give it a second glance. I just thought it was just a bit of fake news or something. And then as I got to the school, as I was dropping my kid off at school, Greg messaged me, and it was from Marta, obviously a bit more Real Madrid's mouthpiece, but equally a credible Spanish news source for things like this. And I saw the tweet that they put out.
Your first thing is Marta, you know, as a football fan.
Yeah, but equally, it's not the sort of thing that it's nothing to do with Real Madrid. You know what I mean? They're a propaganda merchant for Real Madrid. So that's what you think. So, but my first inclination was their account must have been hacked. Their Twitter account must have been hacked. That was my thinking, because no one on any sort of human level for any major media outlet posts something like that, knowing it could be fake. So that was my from there. What I did was I saw that some people had asked Grok if Marca had been hacked, and of course Grok was saying yes. Grok was saying they had been hacked because there's no way this is true. But they were saying that it had been hacked because he only played a few days ago and he got married a few days ago. You know what I mean? So that just shows you where the AI technology is out of date. You know what I mean? Because it can't work on a human level like that. No. And of course, I said that to Greg. I says, look, that's what the Grok said, that it's fake, that they think Mars has been hacked. And of course, then minutes later, an article appeared on their website. Article appeared on their website. Well, they can't have been. It can't just be a Twitter hack if that's. And then I dropped my kid off at the school, and as I was walking out of the car park, the BBC or the Sky News feed came up on my phone confirming the worst, and all your hopes that it was fake news kind of dissipate, and you're then realizing that you're going to have to deal with this reality, and that your immediate thoughts just go straight to his family. You know what I mean? Because it's tragic what's happened to Diogo Jota and Andre Silva, his brother. There's nothing that they can do now to console the grief that this family is going to have, and it's going to define that family for another couple of generations now, because those poor kids are going to grow up without their dad and their uncle. Their Ruth's going to grow up without her sweetheart, this husband that she's been waiting all this time to marry. They've just had this fairy tale wedding. When that video, we were talking about how the grief hits you in waves. When that video got posted that Diogo had just posted himself a few days earlier, obviously they've had that video made to celebrate this joyous day for the family. And I mean, it was a beautiful video, and it came back, and he must have been so proud of that he went and posted it on all his own social media channels. And then that video to just be used a few days later to to almost quantify this horrible news that Diogo Jota had passed away. It was galling. And then I think as the day went, we'll talk about some of our memories and how some of the players reacted about it. As the day went and the tributes flowed in, it was those ones from the Liverpool players, the managers, Klopp, Slot. It was those tributes.
Even ex-players, ex-managers, ex-players.
Yeah, they're just the ones that set you off in waves. You know what I mean? You're starting to think I'm starting to kind of accept this, because they say obviously denial is the first stage of grief, and you get past that, and then these tributes coming in from those who did know him. Now, obviously, we're fans. We don't know. We never knew Diogo Jota. I never met him. You know what I mean? No. You never met him. It's like, obviously, some fans have interviewed him in things that they've done before. But here at Anfield Index, we don't have that opportunity to interview players, current players. And I think what we do is we deal with it in stages. We've been used to this channel for all the years we've been doing it. When someone dies, obviously we pay them respects as former Liverpool players, but those players were all players that played in the 50s and the 60s and latterly in the 70s. They weren't current Liverpool players. I was speaking to a couple of people yesterday, and I couldn't think of another incident in sport worldwide like this, where someone at the absolute peak of their powers has been lost, has been torn away. There is some, obviously, there is some.
Last year, there was some brothers that happened too. So some people at work are really like linking it to that one. And
the only two examples I could think of that were even close to it, and that they're not, because they're only parallels, is what happened to Emiliano Sala, obviously, with his flight to
Reyes as well, maybe
from Northern France, and probably if you go to the US, you've got the Kobe Bryant incident. But I think I think he had retired, hadn't he, by then as well? Yeah. So I don't think he was. Yeah, I mean, he was still a very young man, obviously, and these guys are just kids, and it's living their life and fearless lives that they have. And it was just something that hit me like a brick. And I mean, I didn't sleep much at all last night. I just had it on my mind all the time.
If you put it to football, though, there isn't, in the peak of their powers, just winning a title or something like this. I just can't think of anybody, apart from like the Man United playing stuff. I just can't think of anything post that as that was a tragedy. Because what happened there was a tragedy, right? With Man United.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were all in their peak of their powers. And now this is tragic for Jota and his family, and for all of the fans, because let me tell you something, I've cried multiple times in the last, like even this morning. It's like, the wife will say, you love it that much. You love this that much. Like, what about if I died? And I'm like, shut up, please. Don't say stupid things like that. It's like, obviously, yes, I do love it this much, and it does affect me this much because I'm very, very passionate about this club, and anything related to it is related to me. I don't know him. I don't know him directly, but I feel like I love him. I feel like I support him.
It's because of the journey, isn't it? You go through all of the highs and lows with these guys. Yeah, you know what I mean? You go through all the goals, the great moments, the poor games, the ones they struggle in. And of course, with Jota as well, we had all the injuries, all of the things that he went through that as an individual. And we report on that stuff as it happens, whether it be the goals, whether it be the missed chances, whether it be the losses, whether it be the injuries. Here at Anfield Index, we report on that. And as fans, just in general, we see that stuff firsthand, and we live and breathe it every single day. It's what we do, and that's why you feel a kinship to the man, because it is about the man more importantly than the football. The football, I mean, I know people say that it transcends football. Of course it does. It transcends sport. It transcends everything on a human level. This defies anything that we can say about sport, about football. But we have to remember also that football is the reason that we love Diogo Jota. So you can't dismiss it as completely irrelevant in the matter. Of course, in terms of the grief it is, but football's still a massive factor in this. And I think that it's one thing as Liverpool fans, I was saying this to you as well last night, that's one thing Liverpool fans, because of the tragedies and because of the grief that Liverpool have had to suffer as a club through the years, I think that the fans of this club come together like nothing else. And I mean, and as a city, I don't think we can just put that on Liverpool. You saw what happened today with the two Everton players and the chairman coming from Everton and laying that wreath outside Anfield as well. We had Jordan Henderson there as well. You know, I mean, so it shows how deep this is carried. There was minute silence, I think, for in almost every football game that's happened since. There's been minute silence, black armbands, statements from almost all of the clubs across the globe, all of the international federations, all of the league federations. This has shocked the world. It really has, and it's an absolutely humongous story, and it's gonna define our lives. It's gonna define Liverpool. It's gonna define what the fans feel, what the fans think for many months and years to come. And we'll talk about some of that as the show goes. But I think what we should start by talking about, Gags, is some of our personal memories, the things that you'll remember most about Diogo Jota, his personality, his character, things on and off the field. The world's your oyster, really. What's the thing that you most remember about Diogo Jota, whether it be on or off the field?
I think firstly, I'm from Wolverhampton, so he was a Wolves player first and foremost before he came from Porto straight. It was Porto, right? Yeah. To Wolves.
He was on loan at Porto from Atletico, and then he was sold to Wolves.
And then he took the jump to the Championship and helped them come up. I just remember a lot of people talking about him because I'm not a Wolves fan and I don't watch their football, but I just always remember being in the gym and just people talking about him. Oh, he's really good dribbling this one. He's really direct this play. He's a really good finisher as well. And, so when you did get to watch some highlights, you'd think, oh, pretty good player, but you'd never think Liverpool quality. I think they got promoted at that point and they stayed up. So they did well and he'd done well. And so my first memory was when we heard the rumor, and I remember it really well in Discord. I just went and looked it up now, actually, that a rumor was going around, or we found a tweet from a Wolves fan on Twitter that I think Diogo's gone to Wolves. Nobody believed him. Nobody believed the rumor. Nobody believed him. So we brought it into our Discord, and by the way, we have this like private area in Discord for just VIPs, and we talk about transfers there. And we were just like, everybody was discussing it, and everybody was like, it would be a good signing, but it's not. Surely not. Surely not. So my first memory of him linked with Liverpool is how we kind of uncovered this transfer, and then over the next 24 hours, it all started to become apparent. And because we'd picked this tweet out from Twitter, it just grew and grew and grew in our private area, and everybody was just like, oh my God, like this has actually happened. Has this ever happened before that we picked this tweet up? Someone just finds this tweet, or I do, and it just like kind of then becomes this big thing. And it was an exciting time. We just won the league, I think, and we wanted to, but it was obviously COVID time, so we didn't know if we were signing anyone, and we wanted Thiago at the time as well. So it was just, we were desperate for signings, and he came in, and I just remember he scored on his debut as well against Arsenal, I think, and just set the tone for the player at Liverpool Football Club, because I think he loved scoring against them. And he was just so reliable, Eddie. I think, if I look back now overall, the first memory of him scoring that goal, and then since then he was so reliable for us the whole way.
Yeah, I remember the signing. Obviously, you spoke to a Wolves fan on a podcast. We were kind of covering transfers quite extensively in that era with through audio podcasts, and we tried to line up a load of shows. And it was one that surprised a lot of Liverpool fans, I think, because like what you said, you weren't sure that Diogo Jota, this lad from Wolves, and he wasn't starting all the time for Wolves in that era as well. Sometimes he'd be on the bench, you know what I mean? And whilst he was the talisman of the side, probably their best player, he wasn't always used. And you just thought to yourself, is this really a Liverpool signing? You know what I mean? But then you thought about, we still had Salah, Mane, Firmino at that time. So it was going to take something to break that up. You know what I mean? So you kind of just sort of assumed that this guy was coming in to almost be a rotation piece effectively, so that he would be that he's probably the best sort of player you could sign without telling him you're going to be guaranteed starts ahead of either of those three. So I think it was a case of it made sense, you know what I mean? And he was a far better player than I suspected he was. I hadn't seen a lot of Wolves, obviously seen the goals and the flashy moments, and I always remember that goal against Man United in the cup where he sat two of them down, and almost became something that got spoke about a lot, that he had a style and a swagger a bit like Robbie Fowler, which was incredible, really. You know what I mean? He had this, the way he walked, the way he would move people out the way and finish off, and some of the finishes were scruffy, some of them were scraggy. You had the headers, he scored all types
great in the air.
All sorts of goals for not a particularly tall guy. You know what I mean? He had all of
the Everton goal, the flick back through his legs, where it's behind him a little, he flicks it, and then he hits it right in the stanchion in the near post. Yeah. Oh my God. What a
he
goal.
certainly he could certainly finish, and I think that was one of the things. Like, I mean, Fowler was one of the greatest strikers this club ever had. Absolutely natural, and Jota had a lot of those traits as well. I think he was very unlucky. It's with his injuries, because like what you said about the one against Chelsea with Tosin, where it's kind of innocuous. He's about to run through on goal, and Tosin lands on him. And I think that the talk was at the time, oh, he's got a bruised rib, and then it turned out maybe he's got a cracked rib and a punctured lung. I don't think that was ever confirmed, but that was the talk. Obviously, he was out for a long time with that, and that's obviously been the injury that's led to why he ended up driving back. And I do believe from some reports that he drove over as well, so this was a return journey for him.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I read there. But almost to sum him up in terms of the luck with the injuries, all of his things that he was doing to get injured always seemed to be because he was given the maximum effort for the team. I remember the one against Brentford as well, the season before. He got injured in that game as well.
Or something like that. It was
yeah. He seemed to be so unlucky with these things. And I mean, you could even say it again.
He was causing it because he was, like you said, combative. You know, when you're just charging through. I called him a bulldozer yesterday. Bulldozer of a player. He just wouldn't care who's in front of him.
And it's not the sort of thing you associate with a forward, though, with a forward player. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like they're a special breed, and sometimes it can be a bit pretentious in terms of, well, that's a midfielder's job. But he wasn't bothered. He got stuck in every single time, and he gave it his all. And I think that's where the fans really resonate with him, because he gave it his all. And I mean, I wrote something, someone mentioned it to me yesterday. I hadn't forgot that I'd written it, but I kind of put it to the back of my mind. I wrote something a few weeks ago that said, is it time to move on from Diogo Jota for Liverpool? You know what I mean? And it hurt reading it back. It did, because we treat these young men almost as disposable assets in some ways, but that's our job. You know what I mean? That's what we do. That's what we're here for. It's not out of callousness or a lack of humanity. It's purely because that's the way the football industry works. So I read that back and I just felt empty. You know what I mean? And I think the headline was, is it time for Diogo to go? You know what I mean? It's like, what a headline to look back on and think, I wrote that just a few weeks ago. Is it time for Diogo to go? And then he's torn away from us in this absolutely abhorrent way that none of us could comprehend. And you look back in the headline, thought, will I delete this post? Will I leave it? So it was my thoughts at the time, so I'll just leave it. But it made me feel so small, and it made me feel so shallow that I'd written something like that just a few weeks ago. It really did. It really hurt to read it.
The first feeling I had when I heard it was guilt, because literally days before we're talking about selling Jota, that he's going to be wait for a certain deal, or for this deal, or for that deal. We're just using his name as like make weights. And so that's the first thing, was guilt. Like just a day ago, we were talking about him like this, and now we're feeling sad that he's passed away. It's kind of,
I think that's where you have to disassociate the footballer from the human, don't you? At times, it's not easy to do, but that's what you have to do, because football is an industry and it's a business, and wheels turn all the time in terms of squad building. And we don't know what Liverpool had planned. We know Diogo had 1 year left on his contract after this, and what may have materialized this summer, for that we'll never know. And it was one of those things. And I think it's not just in terms of transfers. There'll be times where you've gone on post-match shows and you've criticised his performances and such as well. But that's football. It wasn't due to any lack of effort. And I think that's,
I won't feel guilty for that, because that's just true feelings at the time.
It's just something that epitomizes footballers. Diogo had this natural ability to almost be a bypasser in some games, to be up front and not have much involvement at all. But then he could spark something just like that. He could be the one that would make something from nothing, create something himself from nothing, beat a couple of man with one of his jinks or one of his turns, put it through someone's legs, a back heel, a twist, a dink over someone's knee or whatever. You know what I mean? He had that natural ability to create his own opportunities and to finish chances when Liverpool most needed the goals. Remember that just last season, you've got a couple of examples. His final goal against Everton, Liverpool really needed a goal that night. There was the one at Nottingham Forest where we were losing. He came on, I think, with his first touch, wasn't it? It was him and Simicast came on, and they created that goal. There's so many examples like that with Diogo that really stand out. And let's not forget, before his injury,
Spurs winner, 4-3.
Yeah, Spurs winner. Yeah. There's so many examples like that with him. And I mean, there was a year, I think, where he went without scoring, and that's actually hard to fathom now, because when he first came to the club, I remember, I think, did he score a hat trick in the Champions League at Atalanta? There was that one, and I think there was some goals against Leicester as well in a cup game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many great memories, and they're the things that we'll remember him by. It won't be this tragic accident when we look back. We'll know that's how we lost him, but we won't remember that in the same way that we'll remember the joy and the moments that he gave us on the field. I suppose one other personal memory could be the one that the video, and it's something I never really thought of at the time when I watched it live, but him singing his own song to the Kop after that final game of the season with his Portugal flag. It's actually kind of funny, because if you just look there above my, let me see if I get the camera right. If you just look there above my finger, you can kind of see the green flag in the background, and that's obviously Diogo's Portugal flag on that team picture. I can just I was looking at that picture just before I kind of came on, and that's his Portugal flag, which was the same flag that he obviously had draped around him when he was singing his song. And that song as well, you know what I mean? We can't move on to the next part without talking about that song. I mean, what an anthem for a player. And I don't think he was ever better than Figo. I don't think he ever thought himself he was. But to us, in those moments, he absolutely was. You know what I mean? And the things that he created. And with all the goals.
Banter, and like at the end of the day, you want to big your players up. And it's just such a beautiful song. And I don't know if they're going to reword it to be was. And, you know, I don't know if it will ever get re-sang in terms of in a past tense. It'll probably bring more, I don't know, feeling, or I don't know how do you explain it. I think it'll G people up more if it's sang like that, because it's like he's gone, you know. But I love the song, and it was beautiful, like you said, to see him singing it with the fans. There was one video that came out yesterday, not came out, but was cut up and shown yesterday on Twitter, where he's talking to someone. Oh, is it Jamie Webster he's talking to? Maybe, I'm not sure, but he's talking to a singer, and they're showing him the song. The fans singing
it was I think it was the Kop Kids event just at the end of the season there, which was something again that summed up the man. He didn't have to do that, but the kids had all said it was their favorite song, and Webster was about to sing it, and they got Diogo on to speak about it.
Yeah, and then they show him the video of it being sang in Paris, and like Paddy the Baddy and everyone's singing it. And you can just see the pride on his face, and you know how he's laughing and how he's smiling at it. That set me off big time.
I think the reason that sort of thing sets you off is because that tells you that the man knew he was loved. He knew that this club saw him as a special part of itself, and I think that probably meant the world to him. You know what I mean? He was a kid. Let's not forget, this isn't a kid that came through an academy or anything. He was still paying through his parents were still paying for him to play football at the age of 16. You know what I mean? At a local club. He wasn't through some fantastic academy in Portugal. And for him and his brother to come from the humble roots that they did, to achieve what they did in their careers, to both become professional footballers, for Diogo to win all of the big honours in the game, to represent his country almost 50 times. You know what I mean? His hero was, what, like most Portuguese kids, was Cristiano Ronaldo. You know what I mean? That was their hero. And he got to play with him. He got to play with him on the international stage, and to be a friend of his. And obviously Cristiano put his own attribute up yesterday. And I think these are the things that show you the man. They're the measure of the man. These are not genetic things. This is someone that's been raised the right way. You know what I mean? To have these traits, these human, genuinely bona fide human traits.
Every player came out and said something about how he'd helped them or like, you know, thanks for, I don't know, letting me live in your garage, or whatever, you live with me, or whatever. I don't know. I live with you, or you were one of my best friends. You were always there for us. And just the way they, you know, how it's so he was so understated, should I say. Like, he went about building his relationships in such a quiet way. He wasn't on socials. He'd want to keep himself to himself, do things in the background, play his gaming stuff. There's a video going around about him smashing someone in the game.
It was Connor Bradley, wasn't it? Connor Bradley.
Yeah, that was like, look, he just turned up, beat me. There's some beautiful videos out there of him, or you know, there's the tributes. Yesterday, just reading every single one by one coming out, would just set you off again and again. I was really worried about doing the show because I thought I'd be set up, but I held it together nicely today. But it's like, I think it's finally 2 days kind of settling down, but it's amazing what he, there was a women's football thing I saw on Instagram that said we never shout out like male footballers usually because the lack of support we get or something. But I have to shout Diogo out because he comes over to Ireland when we were doing an event and he was talking to female footballers and he gave us a big speech about how his mum raised him and how he has respect for females and his wife and his daughter as well. He wants them to look up to all the footballers that do their thing and how they're fighting through the challenges they have in women's football, and he respects it and he wants to help. And they went out of their way to tell people, because he didn't do this and they didn't do it at the time, but they wanted to do it now because he probably didn't want any of that publicity at the time. It just shows you something about the man, and like you say, the humility of the human.
I mean, they're all things he didn't have to do. You know what I mean? There's no contractual obligation to do things like that. You know what I mean? And many footballers will live in a cocoon where they where they just go to training, take their paycheck, go home. You know what I mean? But he was clearly a very private person. I actually feel I've learned more about him in the past 24 hours than I knew about him while he was alive. You know what I mean? There's so many things. I mean, you knew he had an interest in some of these things like snooker and darts. And I thought that was one of the things that Andy Robertson said. He was the most British of all the foreign players that he'd encountered because he was into all these horse racing, snooker, darts. You know what I mean? I saw Stephen Bunting, the darts player, put something up obviously yesterday as well. He got to play darts with Diogo just a few weeks ago. You know what I mean? At the Axe, and he came into, and he wasn't expecting any of these players to show up, but Curtis Jones and Diogo Jota came, and they wanted to play darts with Stephen Bunting. And I mean, you wouldn't imagine that a foreign player would come in, and not unless you're sort of Dutch, German, or British, would you think that you'd be that into darts? But obviously, it's something that Diogo took to because he was a competitor. He was a natural competitor, and I mean, I think that's with your FIFA and your esports and stuff as well. Obviously, he clearly had a deeper thinking of competitiveness, and I think he had. I mean, it's hard to say now. We'll never see him grow old, but he probably had that sort of tactical brain that may have made a good coach one day. I mean, if he was into all these the thinking on the game on that level.
How many said he was intelligent as well? Like, because they obviously respected that he knew the game, understood it. And sometimes I used to think he played like he was playing FIFA or EA, whatever it's called now, FC. Like, like some of the turns he'd do and some of the flicks he'd do inside the box and get round players and score. It's like, yeah, that's how you score a goal in FIFA. You just do R1, this, that, move through. It just, it's like his brain was working in that way as well. And you could see him like talking to Slot and some of the players and explaining some tactics on the sideline as well for one game. That video's again now coming out. But you don't pick those things up at the time. You don't understand.
No, you don't. I heard a podcast today. It was one of the Wolverhampton journalists was speaking about when he joined Wolves, and he said that it was not long after he joined Wolves, and he had to go and he was sent to go and interview him, and he thought, they're putting this young Portuguese kid in front of me. This will be broken English, and it'll be a challenge to get anything good out of him. He says he just spoke absolutely unbroken, perfect English from day one, and he said it was an absolute joy to interview him, particularly in that period for Wolves, which. Let's not forget their period between 2017 and 2020 mirrored Liverpool's period under Klopp of rising to domination. And I think that is the era, that 3-year spell under Nuno will be the years that Wolves fans remember forevermore, because that was their rising. That was their rising under players like Ruben Neves and Diogo Jota, Pedro Neto, and these lads. You know what I mean? That was their rising, and that's an era that they'll remember forever. And Diogo Jota was a massive part of that.
Massive part of it.
So before we finish up, we're not going to go too long, obviously, on this. One of the things we've kind of decided to do on Anfield Index just now is we're just sort of moving away from our normal content, and we're just focusing on this story, and we're doing little bits here or there. Obviously, Dave Hendrick did a tremendous tribute this morning on Daily Red, and that was the first podcast that we've done since this broke. As I said at the start of the show, we decided that it was in our interest. We've got to think of the humans that work for us as well, on whether they want to speak about stuff like this, and we can only ask them to do that once they're ready. You know what I mean? So it's not something we can just sort of miraculously switch on and off like a light switch. People have to be prepared. I did see a couple of podcasts that Liverpool fans did yesterday on the day that happened, and all respect for them for trying to do that, but they very much struggled to get the words out, and I know I would have done as well had I been asked to speak about it yesterday, because the grief was like this. It was just so up and down, and I don't think I'd have been able to have the composure. I did manage to write something yesterday. I did manage to write something this morning, and I know Gags wrote something this morning as well, and Greg Hopcroft wrote something. Ben Pescod managed to do something last night. Tony Evans has done a fantastic tribute. You can get these things on itwasalwaysliverpool.com. That's our Substack. There's no ads on those articles. They're all there for you to read. Some fantastic tributes been coming in from our writers, and we thank them for that. And obviously Dave Hendrick for his tremendous podcast this morning as well. So that's some content you can go and listen back on. And I think it's important to add as well that it's not essential to listen to these things now or read these things now. You have to be ready to engage with them at a point, and you may never be ready to, and that's obviously fine as well. So it's a very individual thing in how you deal with this. It's something that in many years to come you could listen to and as a memory of what happened to this at this time. So it's not something where you have to be ready. I think that's the crux of it. You have to be ready to engage whatever level of grief you're at that time, whether you want to engage in fan media content. Obviously there's a lot of mainstream media content that's almost inescapable because it's plastered all over the news, and I think it's fair to say that most media outlets have dealt with this well and respectfully. I would say shame to the Daily Mail. What you did, you know what you did, and that's wrong. It's wrong on every single level that humanity knows, and for you to deal with this story in the way you have is a slam on a paper. We know you have the wrong morals anyway, and I think that it's a shame that once again you've proved that you're the lowest denominator of humanity. I do feel sorry for Lewis Steele, who's a friend of mine, that he works for that organization. He's a good guy, and I think he tried to stop some of that was happening yesterday, but it seems to have fallen on deaf ears. So my thoughts do go to Lewis, but the Daily Mail, wow, what can we say? You don't deserve our attention. You're not going to get any more of it, because where you went, there's just no place in this world for that, I'm afraid.
I said in itself for a few clicks, you know.
Yeah, I don't think there's any place, and I think Liverpool fans will be with that almost universally. You know what I mean? Liverpool fans understand how this works. You know what I mean? It's all about respect. It's all about being respectful. We've lost a man here. You know what I mean? A good man, and I think that's the thing that should be the first and foremost in everyone's thoughts here, more so than the footballer. We're speaking about the footballer because that's what we know. That's the Diogo Jota we know, so we have to speak about the footballer. But I think that most of the media have been respectful, and I'm sure they will continue to be. Obviously, another big day tomorrow, Gags. We're hearing that there was a mass, obviously, in Portugal this evening, that his mother and father, his wife, all attended. Some former players, some former teammates of his were there. I think João Moutinho was there. Have got the funeral tomorrow. Obviously, that it's quick. We're not used to that sort of thing here in the UK. When our loved ones pass, where we can be waiting weeks for a funeral. This all seems very quick. I know in some faiths that happens even quicker than this. You know what I mean? And I think it's a good thing in some ways, because it'll let the family grieve at their own pace without the privacy being intruded. That's what we can only hope for anyway. And we can let this family grieve for however long they need to grieve. And I'm sure Liverpool will, as a club, group together and do things in a respectful and a nice way. Obviously, one of your things that you kind of pinned your colours to this morning was about the number 20 shirt. I'm going to let you speak a little bit about that now. You obviously have made a case for that in your article this morning. Now, I know some people have come back and said they don't think that should happen. I've not seen anyone give a good enough reason for why it shouldn't happen. I can't think of one.
No, I think it's fine. I think everybody's obviously got a right to have their own opinion. But it all was born out of something I read actually on Twitter, and I say this right at the start of the article. Steve McVeigh wrote, Jota didn't leave, he wasn't sold, he didn't retire, he's just gone. And it's so true, and it was just so beautiful that he's forever. He's a Red forever, and so if he's a Red forever, then his number should remain forever, And I don't think we've ever been in this position before, where we've had a Red forever like that didn't end up leaving, and passed here as whilst playing. I'm not sure. I don't think there has been. I think it's the
Not
first
like that.
one,
There's not
and
one I
like,
can think of.
so I think he deserves for that shirt to be retired. And I also said in that the piece that not only retire it, I think the number should be allowed to be picked by fans for every brand new shirt that comes out in the future. Every single one, no matter who's, what's on it, which design it is, whatever, number 20 should always be Diogo Jota's name and number, and it should be an option to purchase. And anyone who does purchase it, all of the proceeds from that go directly to his family, so we can still make a contribution however we want as fans towards his family if we want to. And I actually think people might even start buying 2 shirts every year because they want a Diogo shirt, and we could make it something. We could make a Diogo shirt very special in the future as fans, because we all get one and we all wear one, and we have a Diogo day at the stadium, and we all wear Diogo shirt on that day, on the 20th of whatever his birth month is or whatever. Do you get what I mean? You could do anything you want to commemorate and to have a memorial on this. There's so many ideas. There's so many things to make it really special, but we should. Scott, I think what they said in the tweet was, or in the article, they didn't say retired, mate. They said that
immortalized.
they said his number, the number 20 is immortalized because he won the title. In no way, shape, or form were they saying that it's retired. They said it was immortalized. Immortalized mean that fans in their brain will now assign that 20 to the player because he won the 20th title. They haven't said it's retired anywhere, right? It's context. I think that's right. That's what you guys think immortalized means it's retired. I don't think that means the same thing. So I want the club to retire it, and I want them to announce they're retiring, and they can do that in their very, in their own time. It doesn't need to happen now. It doesn't happen tomorrow. There's no like crazy push towards this. It's like, hey, just do it though. Do it when you feel it's right. Do it for the players, because the players will love that we're doing something like that as well, because they loved him. The fans will love it. And I think it'll show you're doing something for the family in the future too. I do also hope that his last year of wages go to the family too, and we honor that contract.
That won't even be Gags. That won't even be an issue because there's insurances that kick in. The Liverpool will have I actually feel weird talking about this sort of stuff right now, but there, just from dealing with agents and players and that over the years, so there'll be a few insurances kick in. The club will have a group policy for accidental death that will kick in. That protects the club in terms of their investment in the player, in terms of his wages, in terms of his contract, his value. So you'll have that. Then the player himself will have personal life insurances for death or critical illness, or if his career was cut short, they'll protect his family and his wages and stuff like that. So none of that is going to be an issue. How long the club decide to continue contract almost paying out on his contract will probably be up to the club at some point, but I don't think the family sort of financially are probably going to be just fine, what I mean, with everything that's going to come up. But obviously that's secondary to everything else. It's about losing the man. But I think in terms of that, I don't think there's going to be any concerns.
I think the piece though comes, you grieve the loss now of the man, but you also then have a care towards what happens for the family, afterwards, because he was the man for the family, and he was bringing it all in for them, and you just want to make sure that at the minimum or the least that they looked after, that's all.
And I think the club will do that. I think the club will do that. I remember there was it a Fiorentina player or something a few years ago that passed in the peak of his years, and I think they said they would pay his contract in full for the next 10 years or something to his young family. And I mean, it's those sort of gestures that you hope that that's something that the club will take heed of. I mean, we don't know what happened, and as you said, even with retiring the shirt, there's plenty of time for these things to be sorted out. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. I'm not campaigning for anything that's putting the club under pressure. It's an idea.
I can't think of any reason, based on the sentiment that you've expressed, I can't think of any reason why not. You know what I mean? I almost need someone to tell me why not, because my brain hasn't got the capacity to understand why they wouldn't do it.
Well, it's the thing that Liverpool don't do. Like, we just never done it for anyone.
But when has there even really been a case for doing it, ever? You know what I mean? It's like, you could say Kenny was a great player, so do you retire the number 7? Of course
no,
not
all
the going to be other great players.
You want those things to happen because you want great players in numbers, because you want others to emulate them. Like, you want, remember in the past, you want the hunger. I want that 7 shirt. It's like, I want that 7 shirt because I want to be as good as him. I want the fans to know I'm a good 7 as well. It's like, you kind of attach yourself to a number and you kind of like become good. But in this case,
I can't
Daniel,
see a
this
reason
should be no one
genuinely. If
else's
someone in the
ever,
chat
ever, ever
wants to
again.
tell me a reason,
Yeah,
please
chat,
do.
guys, if you're here, let us know why
Tell
you
us
think
why
we
not.
shouldn't.
You know what I mean?
You
Because
know?
we can't think of a reason why not. And that's why, I mean, when you put your article up today, I commented on it that I'll be stunned if the club don't do it. I really will. I don't think there's been a case to retire a number at all. I think the case for this is cast iron. I cannot see a reason why not. And I mean, is a player really going to come in and ask for number 20? You know what I mean? Is a new signing in the future going to come and ask for that number? I can't see it. You know what I mean? Given the history associated with that number now.
Exactly. I also mentioned in the article about the marketee "this means more" thing. You know that we have that Liverpool as it's like a slogan, but like this is what would make the meaning more. You know, this type of gesture shows that it means more. That this matters. You know, for the club, for the player, for their family, for the fans. Like, do it for us, because I would genuinely feel some peace that he's always there. Do you get what I mean? That number will always be there. It's not gone. And you mentioned something, that people would, we could. How do you say it? It's like, yeah, it's in the article actually that how you write. It's going to be the future of when people ask about the number 20. Why can't somebody wear a 20? The stories will be told.
Yeah, you put something in the museum, you have Diogo, you have his image, you have the shirt. You know what I mean? And people will say, well, why don't kids growing up in future generations will ask why no one wears the number 20? And it's because there is only 120, and that's Diogo Jota, and that's something that the club should do. And I genuinely will be baffled if they don't do it. I think it's an almost no-brainer. It might not be with the same intricacies that you've described, but it should certainly be something that should be under consideration. And I'm absolutely sure it will be. The club have to be thinking along those lines. And I mean, we don't know what tributes we're going to see. The club will be talking
Also, by
about
the way,
all that.
saying Benfica did it with Ferreira, a player there, so. There is some clubs have done it in the past.
Yeah. Oh no, I do. I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen. I expect it to. So what else do we think may happen now, Gags? Obviously, we've got this funeral tomorrow. I can say to everyone on Anfield Index, we aren't going to be getting back to our normal content right away. It's something that we'll kind of take day by day and decide when we are ready to start speaking about other things, and when the people that work and contribute to Anfield Index are ready to start working on things again is when we'll do that. And now I'm sure fans understand that there's only so much content that you want to be listening to right now or watching, and I don't think futile stuff like transfers or tactics or previews of the season, I don't think any of that really matters just now. So it's kind of that's why that's
delayed pre-season by a few days already as well.
There we go.
Was it start today or next week?
I think there was tests booked for today. I think there's some players were supposed to be
Monday because I think people might be going to the funeral.
Yeah, so we may see that tomorrow. We may see some pictures emerging of some.
I think this is the other idea. Forever 20. What Red Jabby's just put here. Forever 20 as a foundation as well. And maybe the money from that can go towards women's football and all the things that he loved to do or he believed in. Children's football and grassroots, and that could become a big thing as well. So that's another idea.
I think that's something again, like the retiring of the shirt. They're stuff that when the opportunity arises, the club are going to have to speak to his wife to and decide with his family what ways the club can best honour him. And I'm sure they'll come up with some wonderful ideas. And this club are good at that. You know what I mean? We're good at honouring our own, and I'm sure that's something that will transpire in time. That we'll see some wonderfully fitting tributes to a great player and a great man, and that's something that none of us really wanted to be talking about this time. None of us really wanted to be seeing, but that's the cards we've been dealt. That's the cards his family have been dealt, and that's what we're going to have to do. We're all just going to have to crack on. And of course, some others that are going to have to crack on are his teammates, Gags. And I think that next week, coming back to the training centre to go into a changing room, look at a peg where he once sat. There was players that he'll have sat next to in that change room. Now, I know footballers change changing rooms all the time. They change training grounds, they change clubs, they change colours. That happens all the time. You know what I mean? So there'll be other lads that they go in there that are no longer there. Trent, Keegan Kelleher, those lads are gone as well. You know what I mean? But Diogo Jota's gone. He's not gone anywhere else.
Mo said it.
He's
Mo said it
and
today. Mo
I think
Salah
for the
should be.
players going in to that training ground next week, lifting themselves up for the manager, he's going to have his work cut out to lift these boys.
Never seen Mo say he's frightened of football. You know, and Mo saying that players come and go, but not like this. Like that hit hard. You know, that hit hard. So let me tell you though, you know, we've had people in our Discord server, because we have a mental health channel as well, where we look after each other, and you know, we normalize sharing what we're feeling if we're going through a rough time in life, and we try and help each other through that, or guide and help. And I'm a mental health first aider, actually qualified as well, so I do try, if I can get a chance to see in there, to help people. And I'll be honest with you, they'll be getting all the support, mental health wise, at the club now, 100%. And hey, if they need anybody, I'd be willing to help them any day of the week. But I think what people don't realize is, and I do this at work as well, professionally, with a lot of young people who go through mental health problems every day, and I tell them is that you're much stronger, or people are much stronger than you think. You know, we as human beings are much stronger than we think. We seem to get over a lot of lows and then thrive again a little while later. And sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 2 months. And I think one of the things with grief is it never leaves you. It never ever leaves you. You just get used to it. It becomes a habit. Again, human beings create habits. Every 30 to 90 days, you can create a habit. And it normally takes that long to just accept something and start living your life with it. It's like losing a loved one, losing a pet, a breakup with your girlfriend. It's going to hurt right at the start. And then the grief slowly becomes a part of you. You never forget it. Something will trigger it. A happy moment, a reminder of a player. You'll cry because you remember it. So the grief's always there. That feeling never goes. That love's never going to go. There was something written. I need to find it right now because I really want to share it with you guys. It was such a beautiful little thing. I'll find it in a second, but I want to read a couple of things. But what I'm trying to say is, I do think the first month's going to be really hard for these players, but I don't think it's going to be something that's going to affect them the whole season. I think they'll have the right support, they'll have the right people around them, and I honestly do believe that they'll be okay. But like you said, this is it. Neil Docking tweet this morning. Grief
Neil
I've learned.
from the Anfield Wrap.
Yeah, grief I've learned is really just love. It's all the love you want to give but cannot. All that unspent love gathers up in the corners of your eyes, the lump in your throat, and in that hollow part of your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. It's because you can't express it to them anymore. You can't show them you love them by singing that song really loud in the stadium anymore. That's why we're feeling what we're feeling. And it's just going to take some days. And like I'm tearing up now. It's just going to take some days. And, you know, for the players that are with him every day, it's going to take them at least a month to just get used to not seeing him there. And then they are going to be, they are elite. They are football players, or any athletes are the elite of our race. They have the focus levels that we can't do, because that's why they're getting paid the big bucks. They've got that concentration. They get there. Alisson played when the most closest person in the world to him passed away, and he went and scored a goal, a thing that nobody would ever do for a goalkeeper. These are elite human beings we're talking about. And yes, they'll be low. 100% they'll be low. But let's not disrespect them or say that I honestly believe they will be stronger for it in the long run, in a couple of months. But for now, that pre-season is going to be where they're going to real struggle. But then when the fans are with them from Wembley onwards, Eddie, it's Wembley, right, where the Community Shield is. Wembley onwards, I think you'll see Liverpool, and you'll see it thrive, and you know, there's no better motivation for them than to do it for Jota, this time round. And yeah, it's sad. But like I said, from a mental health perspective, they're going to get so much support. And human beings are incredibly strong people. And if you're going through anything anywhere in your life, always look to the previous experience you had that was rough. How did you get through it? Because you did get through it and you were strong enough to get through it. And that shows how strong you are. You're incredible. And I just want everyone to know that you are incredible, because it takes real guts to get through a hard time. Real guts. And if you've done it once, you can do it again, and you can do it again, and you can do it again. And we as fans will be able to do this. And guess what? Reading all those messages from those players, they're going to need us more than ever before. Ever. So we should be 100% behind them. And even, you know what we did on the last day of the season when I was in that stadium, and we went down a goal to Palace and we sang the Chiesa song from nowhere. That shocked everyone in the stadium. That what's going on? We're singing a song when we're losing. Next season, that Diogo song should be sung at any tough period, any tough time where we want to give those players a lift. Remember Diogo, and I'm sure that they'll remember it, and that passion will drive them, that we've got this mate that we're doing this for now, and we're going to do it. And so make it their strength, not their weakness. Make him their strength and make him our strength as well. And we got to support these players massively. But it's a tragedy that we've just got to get through, and it's tragic times. But there's no better fan base than this one to get through it and support each other and support the players and the management. Because hey, we've not even talked about the management here. They are going to be going through it as well, because it's a tight-knit club. So yeah, I don't really have anything else, but look after yourselves. It's tough, but I am 100% sure we're going to get through this, and we're going to be okay. We just got to be together, and we need to be Jota forever.
Yeah, there's not really much I can add to that. I think we're pretty much towards the end of this show now, and thanks to all of you who joined us this evening. Obviously, on I know some of you won't even be wanting to hear about football or anything associated with it. Just now, some people just need that time to switch off and do other things, focus on your family, give your loved ones a hug. Remember that tomorrow isn't guaranteed for any of us. Life can be very cruel at times, and we've just seen an example of that firsthand in what everyone's dealing with since this tragic news broke yesterday morning. So it's something that we'll take forward, something that we'll reflect on. Hopefully, as Gag said, in time, players, fans, Diogo's family can all gain strength from this horrible, horrible incident that we've seen. And I think that we'll be around. We'll be back. We'll be back doing our regular content as soon as we feel able to, as soon as we feel that people want to listen to that. At the moment, it's just not the right time. So our content on Anfield Index will still be centered around tributes for Diogo Jota. Will still be centered around memories of the good times. All the things that we have to remember him by forevermore. The things that we will always remember Diogo Jota for. The trophies that he won, the goals that he scored, even those horrible moments, the injuries, and how he always came back stronger. He was so determined as a player, and I think they are the things that make him human, and they are the things that make us such big supporters of the man, because he was us embodied in a red shirt. You know what I mean? He was the guy that fought through the challenges to get to the very top. And that's why it's so sad that he's been taken from us and from his family and from football fans all over the world that, as Tony put this morning, aren't ever going to get to see Diogo Jota go old. He's now frozen in time. And it's this time and these memories that we'll have. He's forever going to be a champion. He's finished his life as a Premier League champion. It's not in the nicest circumstances, but it is what it is, unfortunately, and that's something that we've all got to learn to deal with. So we'll close out just now. I'll say thanks to Gags and good night to Gags, and I hope you all have a good weekend. Try and spend some time with your families. There are things so much more important than football, and that's one thing to remember as the season's just a few weeks away. The pre-season may be all affected. We'll be covering whatever happens when it happens, with changes to pre-season, with changes to fixtures, with whatever memorials or tributes that Liverpool Football Club decide to put in place for Diogo Jota. And we'll try and keep the content coming as best as we can and be as respectful as we can. It's not too much to say out with what's been said today. I've tried to give you a couple of reflection pieces and a couple of things to help anyone who like us may be struggling to come to terms with this. I hope you'll sleep tonight. I hope you all manage to spend some time with your families this weekend. And until next time, up the Reds.